Today, I really wanted to share with you the process that I took to make this gym get really good results. This is going to be perfect if you're doing this for local clients, especially if you're running ads for them. I promise you by the time you're done, you'll have a clearer picture of how to get ads to work for you. But first, I wanted to introduce you to the client that I'm going to be showing you.
My name is Tyler Clark. I'm one of the co-founders of Lift Performance. Our first meeting did feel like a breath of fresh air. I felt very confident and I felt very positive about the direction that we were taking.
Now, the way this video is going to be structured is I'm going to walk you through the information that I gathered from the client so that I can set the proper expectations for the campaign, running through a sentiment analysis, understanding what the market likes, what they don't like, running demographics reports, and then finally setting and running the ad budget. So as you can see, I created a MyGPT for the client, and I'm going to share this between the design people that I work with. I go ahead and collect some of the basic information. And then also I like to come up with different themes and put that directly inside of there. Then I like to give this a little bit of context. It gives a little bit of information about what the business actually is. Then I like to talk about some of the quick hits. These are really quick themes that we're going to really focus on when we start talking to this MyGPT. What I'm trying to do inside of this MyGPT is I'm trying to take everything that I've talked to them about, consolidate it into what needs to be the most important stuff inside of the actual chatbot, so that when I actually start communicating with it, I can get really good answers based on the conversations that we did and the branding exercises that we did. Now, before we start pushing some serious weight, we've got to get a better understanding of what the market values and what they don't value. Looking at the business at a high level, it's a personal training gym that does small group training in Southington, Connecticut. I really want to figure out several key things. First of all, how do people feel about gyms in the nearby area is one of them. This report I was able to pull through a tool called SplashDash that really allowed me to see, after analyzing 36 gyms in that area, what people were positively mentioning on the web versus what they did not like. In this case, they liked clean, they liked good equipment, they liked shakes, they liked atmosphere, they liked people at the desk, they liked their trainer. We wanted to promote ourselves as the un-gym, not the traditional place. So after looking at it at a market level, I needed to look at it at an internal level. So when I looked at the sentiment at their internal level, the customer sentiment, the first one is they were mentioned often. And that's where we came up with the idea of founder-led. The word community kept coming up, so we came up with the words community-driven. What you say is really important, but I really don't like to guess. So I always start with, what are we going to communicate? What is the market like? What do they not like? And what's special about you? Let's start there, and now we move into figuring out how big is the actual market and who are we actually talking to. When I look at a local market, I'm really looking for some key things. The first thing I'm looking at is what is the total addressable population? The second thing I like to look at is the actual demographics in that area. So you can see there's a large Hispanic and Latino population in this area, so it's important that the website is diverse with Hispanic and Latinos on it. Then I look at the average age. In this area, that's actually perfect and aligns well with the people that were going to go to the gym, about 41.5 years old. After that, I look at the generations. In this case, as you can see, millennials seems to be a key generation in this area. So a lot of our marketing and advertising is going to show millennials directly inside of the ads. If we take a look at the marketplace data for the keyword personal trainer, they were actually ranked number 3 for the highest amount of reviews. Now, when we started, this wasn't the case, but we worked our way up to make sure that when somebody did make a search after they saw one of our ads, they were more than likely to click through to our website and consider us and book a free assessment. Not to mention the average star rating is 5.0. That's immediately something that's going to stick out when a user makes a search. Now at this point, I'll probably understand enough information from a market research level to get down to the money. And there's a couple things I need to know to prescribe an ad budget. The first one is the cost per click of their category. The second one is what their close rate is, how much they're going to make if they actually get a customer. And I do this in lifetime value of the customer. And then the final one is I need to give them an estimated ad budget. So I wanted to show you the math. We took the population size of that area, the ages, and the surrounding areas. We took the total ad units that are possible, giving us a recommended budget. It's going to cost us anywhere from 50 cents to $5.50 to get clicks through to the website. We're going to generate anywhere from 739 to 3,200 clicks depending on the budget and how well the creative is. The website's going to perform at a 2% conversion rate. That means people that visit the website from our ads are going to click book your free assessment, and they're going to complete that 2% of the time, which is very conservative. That's going to give us 14 or 15 total leads, I should say. And if they close 50% of those leads, that's going to turn into 7 to 14 customers on a monthly basis with that spend. Based on their lifetime value of their customers, they can expect to receive $10,992 in return. That means our advertising is going to yield a really great return on investment for them if they can keep those customers long term. The key insight here is if you know your numbers, ads become safe bets. they're really not gambles. Now that I've told them what they could potentially make from this, usually they're excited, but they're still skeptical. So let's take a look at the funnel and the plan of exactly how this is going to work. So let's take a look at the plan in its entirety. First, there's the awareness stage. This is going to be where we run ads in all of the different places we've discussed. Then we'll focus on one clear landing page. The landing page will have all of the conversion mechanisms that are best practices. Along with that is a sales video talking about all of the different sentiment points that we've analyzed, both the positive and the negative. Then we want to clearly define what the business is and what the business is not. We clearly want to outline the journey of what it's like from starting an assessment to becoming an actual customer. We want to focus in on social results. Then we want to highlight the founders. We talked a little bit about how this is a founder-led business, as that showed up really prominently in our sentiment analysis. And then we want to do a clear call to action. Now, all of the call to actions are going to one clear conversion mechanism. How we made the color decision was we really thought about what colors associated with working out, and we came out with the idea orange. You can see on the previous website, you couldn't see exactly what they wanted you to do. They had 2 call to actions, train with us and class times. The navigation didn't have much information. There was no phone number. There was no address. When we redid it, we made it very clear what we want them to do by highlighting the call to action color as orange. Now we can get to the fun part, which is the creative. That's why we wireframe, so that we can figure out what is it that we need to make this successful. Our videographers will go out and script this information so that we make sure we're hitting the message as much as possible. So what I did was I took the 3 coaches and I gave them each a theme of what we're going to be hitting for each of the different coaches. For each of the coaches, you can see they each have a theme. The first one was commitment, the second one was personalization, and the third one was ungym. Under that were quick bulleted points that we were going to mention inside of the self-scripting. Each of the bulleted points were targeting different perspectives of what we knew potential customers would want. Finally, we would then use ChatGPT to write a very simple script for each of the coaches. When we run the ads, you're going to see that all of the ads are going to filter down to that offer that we talked about, which is going to bring the user directly to the website, or in this case, the calendar link. The key to running successful campaigns is to have multiple creatives. Each of the creatives should be targeting one call to action, but the user at the other end of the creative should be seeing multiple different types of it. When we're planning out our campaign, we're going to want to use different types of media. We don't just want to use video. We also want to use pictures. That's why we'll go to the business, take a bunch of pictures, and then use those images to actually create ad creative. Now, I have found the best way to do this is to go to the business and just get a bunch of things and then filter through what you can use. And what we're really looking for is the pictures that have emotion and that have action, whether they're smiling, whether they're giving a high five, whether they're doing a service. So once we have all of this collected media, we'll use Basecamp to store those files, and we'll use Frame.io to get the video edits done. So I want to show you what some of that creative ended up looking like once we were done with it. So what you're looking at is the finalized creative, the videos that we're going to run, the pictures. If you notice, the headlines are very straightforward. You want to be careful with being too creative with the actual wording. Let the image speak and let the words guide the user of exactly what you want them to do. When the user actually clicks through to the web page, this is where we're going to give them all of the information that they need to know to make the real decision of actually booking that assessment. Think of your ads as a simple headline. All you're doing is calling somebody out who may be interested in this and then giving them more information directly on the website page itself. Don't get bent out of shape thinking about the different tools to use and buying insane amounts of equipment. An iPhone is usually good enough for you to accomplish this. In fact, I'm making this video with an iPhone myself. When we make the creative, you'll probably notice that there's a lot of moving parts going on, but the scripting is all based on what we know is going to work based on our research. We want to highlight the call to action as many times as possible throughout the video. Too often, I find that businesses try to get too creative with what they actually do, so I like to be as crystal clear as possible. I like to make the call to action extremely clear, showing the phone number and showing the location, so that the user can clearly see where this business is. So you can see that we follow a pretty strict formula when it comes to the social ads as graphics, and we utilize 3 sizes: the story, the square, and then the horizontal, which should be perfect placement for when you go to launch the ads in pretty much all the platforms. We use the image, and then we make sure to use the text in a way that's clearly readable. Now you can see that most of the ad is really focusing in on the offer and showcasing the brand, because people will quickly forget what the brand is if you don't keep reminding them. So we'll work in a simple canvas that looks like this, getting them all created. Canva has a really great bulk feature to allow for this. If you scroll down to the app section and you search bulk create, this will allow you to basically create a lot of things at once. I've used this feature quite a bit, where you'll place your headlines from ChatGPT based on your sentiment. Once that's all set, I'll go to the top right. I'll I'll download this in PNG format, and then I'll restructure it for the different sizes. Once I'm all set with the creative, I like checking the actual social page, clicking through, and seeing how it will actually look on my phone. Something about actually feeling how the process is, rather than just looking at it from a technology standpoint, is a great way to test it and a great way to see where you fall short. While the creative is the most important part, if you show it to the wrong audience, you're not going to get any results. In this case, we know the location, we know the age range, but that's about as far as I'm going to get when I optimize for audiences. Most of the algorithms, Google and Facebook included, have gotten so good at using AI algorithms to find who your best customer is. Most people think that the phones actually listen to you because that's how precise the targeting is. So I recommend keeping your audience as broad as possible, but using some of the first-party data options that are available to you before you launch an ad. If we're going to reach the right people, we need to get the right audiences. In this case, inside of Meta, I created several audiences to use for the targeting. On the top left, I can click on Create Audience, and I can find a couple of different options that I typically like to go for when I'm creating a new audience. The first is using the website pixel. This makes sure that anytime someone visits the website, they're going to continue to see our ads. The second one is video. This ensures that all of the video ads that we run over a long period of time, the people are going to continue to see our ads. Then I like to retarget people based on our Instagram account. Then I like to retarget people based on our Facebook page. I like to upload a customer list from the client. The way I set up my campaigns makes or break the entire project. You want to have one campaign with one ad and duplicate the campaigns once you set your audience, set your targeting, set your pixel, have your creative prepared. The fact is if you have multiple ads running at the same time targeting the same people, those people are going to see multiple creatives that you're running, and that's going to increase your frequency. You got to keep in mind our audience is only going to be 200,000 people, so there's a really good chance that they're going to see multiple ads over and over again, and that's what we want to increase frequency. Now I'm going to walk you through simple campaign structure that I like to do. As I mentioned, I like having multiple campaigns with one ad inside of them. Similar to single keyword ad group for Google Ads, I'll typically do the same thing with Meta. So when I create my campaign, I'll typically do traffic because that's where the conversion mechanism is. And from there, I'll typically do a manual traffic campaign. When I'm inside of this measurement here, I'm going to make the conversion directly to the website. I'm going to skip all of this stuff until I have some data. I don't want to use that. And then I'll set a daily budget. As I mentioned, it's better to have 5 ads at $10 per day at $50 per day a budget rather than one ad at $50 per day. The reason for that is because you want to test creative, see what works, and continue to optimize if you're not getting results. As you scroll down, you'll see that I can add what's called an Advantage Plus audience. This is where I'm going to use some of those existing audiences that I mentioned before. So Meta is already going to know who to target the more qualified information that I give it. That's why I recommend when you begin working on an account, you start to gather some of that first party data during the onboarding process so you can get that information. Now at the top, I'm going to go ahead and change the location to actually be where they're located. This will allow me to target 5 miles instead of 10 miles. Most likely, people have heard of them in their local area. So if I want to get quick results, I might as well target really close to them. Now on the right side, as you see, the audience definition is good. It's in the middle. It's not too narrow. It's also not too broad. We want it to be directly in the middle there. I can then go to the actual ad itself, and this is where I would be able to upload my creative. Because I have 3 different sizes for each of the videos and the photos, when I upload the creative, I'm gonna go ahead and grab that information and upload it directly inside of Meta, all 3 versions. When I turn on ad preview, you'd be able to see all of the 3 versions inside of there, but ideally, you really wanna make sure that the creative that you're uploading is in the 3 sizes. So here's a real example of what that looks like. See how on the Facebook feed, it's gonna be different than in these other areas, that's going to be different than these other areas, etc. So I'll typically send it directly to the website, which is where our call to action is. I'll add their direct phone number. I won't use a tracking phone number for that. I just want them to get phone calls. And then from there, I'll make sure that the creative is in all the right sizes. It's critical to note too that if you're using a Facebook pixel, to make sure that that's tracking website events too. Now, when we're talking about measurement, we're talking about how the ads are performing. The best way to do this is by using 2 things. One is a call tracking software so you can listen to the phone calls, and 2 is just by looking at the leads manually as they come in. Each lead should be treated as cause for celebration, and the more you talk to the customer, in my case, the more I'm going to find out what's working and what's not and what's going to allow me to pivot. If it works in a small group of people, it's going to work in a large group of people. So I'm going to show you how we bring someone up the advertising ladder. Generally speaking, I'm monitoring each and every conversion so that I can compare it against year over year. So let's take a look at measurement. When you're thinking about measurement, it's important to know that there's several different things to look at. For example, the first one might be the actual ad stats. Things like how many people clicked on the ads. In this case, over the last 30 days, it was about 4,000. How many accounts it reached, what the impressions were, what was the cost per click for the ad account. One of my favorite categories, which is frequency, which tells me on average how much did someone see their ads. In this case, it was 6.39. Generally speaking, the lower the cost per click, the more it's resonating, but you don't want to discriminate just based off of that. You want to let the ads run for a longer period of time before you can make that consideration. The second version of measurement is call tracking. So this is where you would install a tracking pixel directly on the website itself to analyze who's calling and where they're calling from. As you can see on the right side, there's a pie chart that allows me to clearly see what sources are driving most of the phone calls directly to the business. Just a huge disclaimer that this information is rarely accurate and that customers contact businesses after seeing them from multiple sources. So most of this is called last click attribution, which means when they did decide to reach out, that's the method that they used. Then you can analyze site traffic itself. Right now I'm in the Duda platform and I can see the engagements on the website over the last 30 days. I can also make some careful considerations, especially because most of the traffic on this website is branded as mobile. So I'm going to want to pay special attention to the way the mobile experience is directly on the website. Then the final mechanism is actually looking at the contact form submissions. This is probably the most popular for me because it allows me to look at everybody that's contacting the website, get some general understanding of the sentiment of how those people feel, put it into the client's CRM if they're using a customer relationship management software to track their contacts. And this is a key point of conversation when we're working with the customer. There's one more measurement that I like to consider that is a little bit beaten off the path, and it's called brand search volume. You can see that for the term of the actual business, it's going up. Typically what that means is as we turn on advertising campaigns, it should hypothetically get people to search that business more because there's more awareness of it. The branded search volume is a clear indication if the advertising is working because hypothetically speaking, if you're spending money to raise awareness, people should start searching for you a little bit more. Now take a look at the numbers carefully year over year. When we started, there wasn't really much going on. You can see that they were getting a couple per month and they already had a pretty loyal customer base. So we started it in July, as you can see, 0 to 13 is a 100% increase. Then we went to 15, which was a bigger increase. Then we went to 21. Now we're going to 23, and this is only month to date, so the month's not over yet. In November, we have to beat this. December, we have to beat that. It's really important that you know the numbers that you have to beat. So I always make this a constant topic of conversation so that I can better understand the key performance indicator. In this case, it's the assessments. For a moving company, it might be bookings. For another company, it might be consultations. It might be sales through a store. Whatever that quote unquote North Star is, make that the central point of conversation with the customer. And this is how you will increasingly increase the advertising budgets over time. If it's going to work with 1,000 people, this is $1 sign, meaning the ads aren't going to be too expensive. You're taking very little risk. If it's going to work with 1,000 people, it's very likely going to work with 10,000 people. So let's increase the budget. If we get it to work with 10,000 people, there's a really good chance it's going to work with 100,000 people. And this is how you're going to scale the business. Throughout this, we are increasingly creating different types of messaging. One person in this case, which would be our quote unquote customer avatar or ideal customer profile, ICP, they're going to see a bunch of different types of messages all the time because of Facebook, Instagram, and search. All right, guys, and that's it for today's video. Quick recap. Understand your messaging, understand your marketplace, and most importantly, understand the person you're working with. Put them in a position to market themselves with one clear call to action. Use several creatives, use first-party data with AI algorithms, and utilize the plan that I put forth in this video and go get them some results. Thank you for watching.